What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Stochastic NHL Strategy Show. I'm your host, Josh Harris. Nice cold day in New Jersey today. Winter is coming. Usually on these bigger slates on Tuesday and Thursday, I have a This Game Sucks circled. For this one, I circled the whole slate. This slate sucks, but there's a 100K up for grab in the 222 here tonight on DraftKings. A lot of us are in it. I saw you have an entry. Frostback took out a fourth mortgage on his house to get an entry. Haas is apparently talking about putting 5 entries in. Jake in his jawline doesn't need to enter because he is the male model of the year, jawline 2023. Joining me to break it down, Slim Cliffy. Lots of news on this slate. Lots of interesting matchups. What's going on with you?
Yeah, not a whole lot. Interesting slate last night. Buffalo Sabres legitimately laid a beat down on Edmonton.
Dismantled them.
Yeah, I actually ended up watching a fair bit of that game instead of the Habs game. I don't know, man. Josh Doan and Tage Thompson on that top line look pretty good. I hope when everybody gets healthy, like a Benson, Thompson, Doan top line would be very fun to watch. Anaheim pulled out a crazy 2 points. Scoring late in the game and then in overtime. So a lot of it, interesting DK scores last night, let's say. Tonight we do have 8 games. There is a lot of, I would say, reasonably significant injury news. I think more than anything is some of the goaltenders. We'll talk about St. Louis and Detroit. Definitely get to that matchup. I mean, Joey Daccord is back. Ilya Sorokin is not starting. Connor Hellebuck is not starting. Spencer Knight is not starting. Karl Vejmelka is probably not starting. We still don't have confirmation on the late game goalie. So very interesting goalie slate, which is kind of funny considering this is one of the big DFS nights so far this season, but that's just kind of the way it goes. We do have 8 games to break down. I'm not interested in watching every single one of these games, but I do think it's an interesting slate from that kind of perspective because there are a few chalky-ish spots, but there's only really like 1 or 2 spots that seem to be drawing a disproportionate amount of ownership. So we'll talk about that because that might be a straight fade, but we'll get to it.
Yeah, I mean, there are some interesting chalk spots here tonight. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off and get right to it, shall we? Seattle Kraken with a 2.6 total. Heading into Detroit, the Red Wings have a 3.3 total. Detroit going Larkin, DeBrincat, Raymond, Kane, Finney, Comfer. Seattle going – didn't they mix up their lines? We don't have the same lines in Top Stack that they actually are, right? I see Beniers, Eberle, Marchment, but isn't it Beniers, Tolvin, and Schwartz?
No, Stevenson. It was Stevenson, Schwartz, and Tolvin, and then they are Stevenson, Schwartz, and Winterton, and then they moved Tolvin on. I think it's basically just the Stevenson line that we really have to worry about.
Okay, so it is Beniers, Eberle, Marchment, and then Wright, Catton, and possibly Tolvanen or Winterton. The big news here in this game is Seattle activated Joey Daccord off IR, and he is probable here tonight. That's big news because he is a massive upgrade over Matt Murray and Phil Grubauer. Matt Murray went on IR. He hurt his feelings. He's out for 6 weeks. Detroit still loading their top line here tonight, and they have been very, very good in a small sample this season. 41 minutes, 4 expected goals for, 7 actual. Anytime these guys are together, you will expect offensive numbers like that. For me, I'm kind of glad Grubauer isn't starting and it's Daccord because I really, really did not want to spend $21,200 on the Red Wings on this slate, there is two other lines above 20K here tonight. The Winnipeg top line, which is cheaper than Detroit one, and the Utah top line, which is cheaper than both of them. Now, Detroit does have the second highest top two stack of the night, 19.7%, 7.7% projected ownership. They're coming in half the ownership of the Winnipeg top line. But, you know, it would have been a much different story if it was Grubauer or Matt Murray. What I'm hoping for is, like, at 21,200, you really need at least 2 full line goals and some bonuses to pay off there. I'm hoping Joey Decord can at least contain them to that. They're still a really good play because none of these Seattle lines are, you know, anything great defensively. It's not a shock that the Stevenson line is bad. Even the Beniers line has been struggling just because, you know, I think not having Capo Caco next to Beniers hurts them defensively. So I do like Detroit. It's just that I don't want to spend $21,000 on this slate. And now they're actually facing a competent goalie instead of some of the worst backups in the league. So if you do want to play them, I think spending above 20K here tonight, it's really between Winnipeg and Detroit. I guess Utah could be a contrarian play, but there are a gaggle of lines between 16 and 19K that I do really, really like here tonight. And, you know, spending up for $21,000 line just isn't my cup of tea on an 8-game slate. I have no issue with them, but I'm more likely to fade in single entry. Obviously in MME, they're a good play. That's really the only line I would be considering in Detroit. You want to walk off Patty Kane. Sure. On the Seattle side, I just listen, like, we don't know what the middle six is going to look like. Beniers hasn't been great this season. I'm not full stacking anything. I think if you want to one off like a Jordan Eberle, one off an Ely Tolvanen, one off a Shane Wright, something like that, I think is fine. But full stacking for me in single entry is off the table for me for Seattle. In MME, if I had to play a line, it would be that Beniers line, but you know, it would be a very low percentage. I'm not super enthused about playing Seattle here tonight.
Yeah, I'll start on the Seattle side. I mean, I don't really know which forward line Detroit is going to treat as the top line from Seattle. I assume it's going to be Beniers and Eberle. And like, one of the reasons why I didn't mind playing that line earlier in the season was Beniers. Historically, Beniers just doesn't shoot the puck, and that's a big problem for DFS. In the month of October, he was averaging 2 shots per game, which, like, you know, still not great, but it was something he hadn't done in any of his first 3 seasons in the NHL. And now in the month of October, he has 6 shots in 8 games. If you look at the Seattle top line in their minutes without Jared McCann, 53 shot attempts, 1.7 expected goals per 60 at 5-on-5, like, there's just nothing there. So assuming that they're going to see the Evanson Sider pairing and that they're not really doing anything at 5-on-5, like, Beniers is a pass. I feel sick to my stomach saying it, but I think if I play a Seattle line, it's Stevenson and Schwartz. I know they just came off a big game. I think Jaden Schwartz had a pair of goals. Like, they're not really doing a whole lot at 5-on-5 either. But they are cheaper, and they're going to get a much better 5-on-5 matchup. They're going to avoid that Sider-Evanson pairing, and once you get to the second and third pairs from Detroit, like, there's really just not a whole lot there. At 10,700, I think they're playable as a filler. For me, like, it's one of those, like, if I was 20 maxing or 150 or something like that, then I start considering them. A single entry, I can't see myself playing Chandler Stevenson on the road on an 8-game slate, so more or less just out on Seattle. The Detroit side is really interesting for this reason is, like, yes, they are the most expensive line on the board at 21,200. The thing is if you play Winnipeg, Josh Morrissey is 6,500. And if you play Utah, Mikhail Sergachev is 6K. Axel Sandin Palika is 3,100. So if you add in the defenseman, they're actually the cheapest of the top stacks. You know what I mean? And, Seattle's penalty kills not really that great. And they have a 770 save percentage over the last 5 weeks on the PK. Like, they're really struggling. We know Detroit's power play hasn't been the same as it was in the second half of last season, but this is generally an excellent top power play unit. I think they make a fine pivot away from Winnipeg. I really do wish it was Grubauer and net and not Decord. Like, that's the one thing that's really holding me back from heavily considering them. It's like Seattle's not a great defensive team, but they're not awful either. They're about middle of the road. That Detroit top line has been great. As you mentioned, 79 shot attempts, 4 expected goals per 60. They all get 18 to 21 minutes. Dylan Larkin at the high end at 21. They have 41 shots combined in the last 3 games, 14 shots a game. It's just absolutely nuts what they've been doing. And with ASP on as the power play defenseman, you can stack them for reasonably cheap compared to if you stack Winnipeg 1 plus Morrissey or Utah 1 plus Sergachev. So in that sense, I don't mind them. I can't say I'm not going to play them. They're not at the top of my priority list, but listen, they still have the second highest top 2 stack percentage with 7 to 8% ownership on an 8-game slate in a game where they have a 3.3 total and their scoring is generally pretty concentrated. So I don't mind Detroit 1. It's really the only line I'm considering from this game. If you want to make it a full-on power play stack, I think you could do that. But the Detroit 1 is the only line I'm considering from this game. And the only reason is because ASP is so cheap. If it was still Mort Seider, who's 5,600, 2,400 more expensive, at that point, I'm probably out. But with ASP at 3,100, I think that kind of changes the equation.
Yeah. Help us if Chandler Stevenson is in the winning lineup tonight. St. Louis Blues, speaking of fun times, with a 2.9 total heading into Toronto. The Leafs have a 3.1 total. Toronto going Nylander, Tavares, Robertson, Nyes, Domi, Easton, Cowan. Blues going Thomas, Holloway, Snuggerbear, Buchnevich, Suter, Bukestad, Kyrou, Shen, Dvorsky. They're searching. They're mixing and matching. I wish they weren't mixing and matching because this is a really good matchup. So, there's not a ton of ownership here on the Blues here tonight. Their most expensive line, Thomas, Holloway, Snuggerud, is $15K. Coming in at 4.6% projected ownership. Thomas and Snuggerud have been fine-ish. Buchnevich has been really bad this season. Thomas hasn't been shooting a ton. I don't know if I want to spend $15K on that line. The line that does give me some interest is the Kyrou line with Shen and Dvorsky. Shen and Kyrou have played a bunch together the past few seasons, mostly with Dylan Holloway, and they have been very good. I think Dvorsky, he's a good prospect. He's obviously not Dylan Holloway, but he can hold his own there, considering that they're going to avoid the top matchups of the Leafs. They're going to get middle 6 matchups. The Leafs are one of the worst teams in the league by goals against. Joey Woll's back, and I'm a big Woll slappy, but there just isn't much there. So, if I'm going to play the Blues here tonight, it's probably Shen, Kyrou, Dvorsky at 12,200. They're a filler, not running out to play them, but, if you want to one-off Jordan Kyrou or something like that, I think that's fine. He's been playing fine since he got healthy scratched for reasons beyond just reasons. So that would be the line. I don't have a ton of interest in Suter, Buchnevich, Bukestad. They are 10,400, and Suter has been good this season. So, if you need something in that range, I guess it's fine. But for me, it's the Shen, Dvorsky, Kyrou line. On the Leafs side, Nylander, Tavares, Robertson's 18,900. Tavares and Robertson have decent numbers together this season. You throw Nylander into the mix, they're probably going to be a decent offensive line. I don't want to say it's like the same thing to like Hughes going out. Like the guys playing with Tavares will be fine because Nico Hischier is a better player than John Tavares at this stage. But it's kind of similar because Tavares is still their best center with Matthews out. I think it would be that line. Nylander, Tavares, Robertson, 18,900, 11.3% projected ownership. The big thing here is they're shooting on Blues goaltending, which is still the worst in the NHL by a mile. I'm not super comfortable about spending almost $19K on that line, though. So I think like most likely what I would do is just one-off William Nylander and call it a day. But if you were to go to a line, it would be that top line. The second line, you do get 2 of the 3 on the power play. They're $12K coming in at 9%, though. You get Domi and Nyes on the top power play unit. You know, there's a cheap-ish 2-man, I guess. I don't particularly love it. Like, if I'm going to do anything with the Leafs, Nylander is 100% without a doubt going to be involved. So it's probably the top line for me on the Leafs, and it's probably the Kyrou line for the Blues.
I mean, I have quite a bit of, I can't believe I'm saying this. I do have a fair bit of interest in St. Louis. I mean, you said the Leafs are one of the worst.
They are the worst, I think.
They're second worst. Yeah. Only St. Louis is worse. These are the 2 teams giving up the most goals per minute in the NHL this season. The difference is Toronto's giving up a lot more shot attempts, shots, expected goals, those types of things. So if I were to bet on one or the other, having a decent defensive night in terms of goals against, it would probably be St. Louis. The other thing is like Toronto's really going through it with injuries right now, right? Like obviously we know Austin Matthews is out, but it's not just Matthews. Like Nicholas Roy is out, who after Matthews is probably their best defensive center. Like now you have Max Domi, literally one of the worst defensive forwards in the league, as your second line center. You have a prospect as your third line center. Half your blue line should be in the AHL. Like legitimately, Mermis, if Stetcher plays, Mermis, Stetcher, Benoit should all be in the AHL. Like this is a bad lineup, and I just wish it was like one of like 28 other teams besides St. Louis going into Toronto, because it's not like St. Louis has played well. Like I shouldn't say that. They have some players who have been playing pretty well. Robert Thomas is not one of them. Like whether you look at before his injury or after his injury, he's not been good this year. And which is surprising because over the prior 2 seasons, he was, I think probably, and we throw this word around a lot, but I think probably the most underrated player in the NHL. He's constantly playing 19, 20 minutes a game against top competition and burying them by goal differential. He's not doing that this year. By the same token, it's like, what matchups are you concerned about from the Leafs? You know what I mean?
There are none.
Right? Like, even the Nylander Tavares duo, 64 shot attempts, 2.8 expected goals against per 60, which is 13% worse than league average, is their best defensive line. And like I said, half their blue line should be in the AHL. This is on Joseph Woll. If Toronto somehow keeps the Blues to like a couple goals, it's one of 2 things. Either the Blues just completely, fall apart, which they have a couple times this year. I mean, it's happened. Or Joseph Woll has a really good game. Like that's just kind of the way I look at it. This is not whatever we think of Toronto when they're healthy, this team is not healthy and missing some pretty key players. So the question is what to do on the St. Louis side. Like I have a hard time not going to Thomas Heilerud and Snuggerud. And this is why, is because Holloway and Snuggerud are, I mean, after Kyrou, they're their best goal scorers, right? Like I think Kyrou, Holloway, and Snuggerud would be like 1 through 3 for their goal scorers. And Robert Thomas, for as poorly as he's playing, he's basically been like Michael Granlund, which is like his tracking data, playmaking numbers are still really good. It's just his defense has been really bad. So I think he can set up Holloway and Snuggerud for some good shots. It's just a question of how often they get scored against. At 15K, like this is a great matchup for them. Like it does feel like one of those get right spots for the Blues where they're playing like not only are the Leafs giving up, the second most goals against in the league, they're bottom 5 by shots against per minute. They're bottom 3 by shot attempts against per minute. They're bottom 10 right there with like Buffalo and Anaheim for expected goals against. This is not a good defensive team by any measure. Their penalty kill, I don't know if anybody's looked at their penalty kill heat maps. It's a bloodbath. It's awful. I like I said, I wish it was one of like 28 other teams, because it's not like you can point to like, oh yeah, I'll go play Pius Suter and Nick Bjugstad, because Suter's probably been their best forward, but like he's got to carry Buchnevich, who's been bad this year, Nick Bjugstad, who should not be in the top 9. Like I like Dvorsky as a prospect. He hasn't really played that well since he came up. He's only there because they really don't have any other options. By process of elimination, I like Thomas Holloway and Snuggerud here tonight. Like at 15K, I wish they were getting more ice time. It's probably priced in. I don't know if you have to prioritize them, but man, this is such a good matchup for them. I'm finding it hard to stay away from them. By the same token, like you said, St. Louis goaltending, absolutely terrible. The one thing that does concern me playing Nylander, Tavares, Robertson is that line is almost 19K. The Leafs aren't drawing power plays. I looked over the last 5 weeks, 2.8 power plays per game. It's tied for bottom 10 in the league. Conversely, the St. Louis Blues aren't giving up any power plays. 4th fewest power plays to the opponent over the last 5 weeks. So not that the Leafs power play has been great, but now they all have to do it all at 5-on-5 and it's not like they're St. Louis 1 priced at 15K. They're almost 19,000. So I honestly don't mind like a Domi Cowan 2-man. Like, I don't know if anybody's, God forbid people are actually watching this Toronto Maple Leafs team, but I think Easton Cowan, outside of their big Tavares, Nylander, Matthews, big 4, whatever, has been their best forward. I have no idea why they sent him to the AHL. He's been better than anybody in that bottom 6. And, him and Domi are reasonably cheap. They're going to have to get ice time because there's just nobody else that can play the minutes. So, like, I think a cheap Domi Cowan 2-man is perfectly fine to me, just because they're going to have to play a lot of minutes. And I think Cowan's being a little bit underrated, but it's St. Louis 1 I like most in this game.
We disagree a little bit on St. Louis. Like, we both like them. I just cannot pay 15K for a Blues line. Also, I feel like Leafs fans who are like true Leafs fans has been through worse. You know what I mean? Like before Matthews and Marner, some of those Leafs teams were.
I was going to say, I look at this lineup and it's giving me 2015 Leafs vibes. Like right before they started dumping everybody to try to tank, this is what it's starting to look like when it was like, Tyler Bozak's your 1C or whatever. Not great.
This team, I wish Michael Grabner was still in the NHL so he could get 3 breakaways on this team a game and miss the net every single time just for full tilt. But anyway, on to the next one. New Jersey Devils with a 2.6 total heading into Tampa. The Lightning have a 3.3. Both these teams had optional skate this morning. The Devils, Sheldon Keefe, speaking of former Leafs, said that Dougie Hamilton, Connor Brown, and Evgeny Dodonov were all game-time decisions. Everyone's going to skate, and then they'll make decisions at warm-ups. That is miserable. What we have in top stacks right now is Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt, Timo Meier, Mercer, Grietzuk, Cotter. On Tampa, we have Kucherov, Point, Gonçalves, Gensel, Hagel, Cirelli. So it's hard to know what I really want to do with the Devils here. I mean, it's not super hard because I'm going to want to play whoever is playing with Nico Hischier, whether that's Jesper Bratt, Timo Meier, or Arseny Grietzuk. We just don't know 100% yet. The one issue I'm running into a little bit here is they're going to see a lot of Hagel and Cirelli. And generally, they've been fine. With Gensel, their defensive numbers drop off a little bit, but they're still a good defensive team. And this line is 18,400, Bratt, Hischier, Meier. with 15% projected ownership. I'd rather play them than the Leafs top line. They're $500 cheaper with a little bit more ownership. But
just FYI, practice yesterday was Gritsuk, Hischier, Bratt, Meyer, Mercer, Connor Brown.
That's what I thought. I don't know why I guess DFO is doing DFO things. So that actually makes it cheaper, and Gritsuk is still on the top power play. So, that makes me more like the Devils a bit more, assuming that is the line because the price comes down. It's still not the best matchup, but you're not spending 18 for. You're back into that 17 range where you have the Stars, you have that Tampa second line, you have, Vegas, which we'll talk about later. So, if that is the line, that's the line I would want to play. Cliffy talked about it when Jack Hughes initially got hurt, that, it's going to hurt the guys who played with Jack Hughes, but the guys who play with Nico Hischier are still going to be fine. So I do like that Nico Hischier line. Am I going to get there in single entry? It's possible because we can get to game time and, a couple of these guys could be in and Sheldon Keefe can completely mix it up and you can get a low owned combo. So this is one of the games I'm going to be paying attention to at warmups. But again, on the Devil side, it's just who's playing with Timo Meier. On the Tampa side, I want to go to the Tampa too, but I also cannot stack them without Kucherov, which is the issue. And I don't really want to play point Kucherov Gonçalves at 17.9. Hagel, Cirelli, Gensel in a vacuum is fine at 17.5 and MME and all that, but in single entry, stacking Tampa without Kucherov just feels like a fool's errand. So a one-off Kucherov, I guess you could do Hagel, Cirelli, Kucherov, something like that. I just feel very uncomfortable in my one lineup, just full stacking Tampa 2 without Kucherov. So in MME, perfectly fine. Kucherov's not a necessity. It's still not the best idea. In single entry, 3 max, something like that. If I'm going to do anything with Tampa, it's going to be built around Nikita Kucherov.
Yeah, I'll start on the Tampa side. My issue with Tampa I like Gage Gonçalves. He's a solid player. He shouldn't be on the top line. That's just one. The other is Braden Point, right? His shot rate so far this year is 16% lower than his prior career worst mark. His expected goal rate is 20% worse than his 3-year average. He's not shooting. He's not creating any quality, and he's shooting under 10%. And this guy is priced at $6,500, basically just based off reputation, which, he has been really good for years, but he's been bad this year, just flat out bad for DFS. You look at points, DK fantasy points per game. He's worse than Boone Jenner. It's not great. You know what I mean? So he is wildly overpriced to me. I don't like Gonçalves on the top line. Now Kucherov, that's the problem. He has the 3rd highest projection of any winger on the board here tonight. Only Kyle Connor and Jason Robertson are higher. But Kucherov is 8,500. So, you are fading the most expensive winger who has an overpriced center next to him and a winger on the other side who shouldn't be there. So it's easy for me to get away from Tampa 1. It's what do you do with Tampa 2? Because I don't know if I can play them without Kucherov. Because if Tampa puts up 5 or 6 goals here tonight, what are the chances Kucherov has an assist with a shot? You know what I mean? That just feels pretty unlikely to me. Tampa 2 does seem like a pretty good line in a nutshell. I was looking at Brandon Hagel and Jake Gensel together this year. Not a huge sample, just under 50 minutes, but 94 shot attempts per 60 minutes. They are creating a ton of offense. And obviously New Jersey's missing some pretty key forwards up front, not just Jack Hughes, but Cody Glass as well. Like those are two of their top three centers. So I don't have a problem playing Tampa 2. My problem is playing Tampa 2 without Nikita Kucherov. So like, do you go with a 3-winger stack? Like, do you just put Tampa 2 and then add Kucherov and make it like a $26,000 stack? At that point, I'd probably just go play Detroit 1 plus Axel Sand and Pellikka is kind of what I'm getting at. So like, I just really don't know what I want to do with him. I honestly think if I play Tampa 1, I'd take out Gonçalves and put in Oliver Bjorkstrand. I'm perfectly fine with a one-off Brandon Hagel as well, just because he does play so many minutes. Like I said, that line has been really good. He's only $6K. I have no problem one-offing him. I guess it would be Tampa 2 is my preference on that side, but it's just really hard for me to actually just play Tampa at all tonight. I think Point is overpriced. I don't like Kucherov's line composition whatsoever, and I don't want to play the second line without Kucherov. Like it's kind of between a rock and a hard place. For me, it just kind of feels like fade Tampa Bay and just pray to the hockey gods that Kucherov just doesn't, put up a hat trick in the first period and you're in bed by 9 p.m. That's just kind of the way that I look at that side. On the New Jersey side, like for me, it's top line or bust. I have no interest in playing Dawson Mercer down on the second line. Like Mercer and Meyer actually created pretty well together last year. If you look at their minutes without Jack Hughes or Nico Hischier as their center, can they do that again against a Tampa team that has been getting better defensively as the season goes on? They get Anthony Cirelli back here tonight. What does the power play look like long-term with Simon Nemec there? Is Nemec even on the top power play? The other thing is the Devils aren't drawing very many power plays. They're at 2.6 per game. It's the 7th lowest rate in the league. I think the 3rd lowest rate of any team on the board here tonight. If anything on the New Jersey side is probably New Jersey 1. In general, I have a lot more interest on the Tampa side, but I'm going to be honest. I think for me, if I look at this game, it's going to be some one-off, Hagel, one-off Bjorkstrand, something like that. It's just so I maybe full on like onslaught stack. I just really I'm at a loss here as to how I want to approach those lines, because the second line is the best line, but how do you play him without Kucherov?
Yeah, it's just a miserable question. And like, I guess we'll obviously talk about defensemen at the end, but if Dougie's in tonight, I think he's an interesting one-off because no one's going to be playing him. But we'll get there when we get there. Oh, boy. New York Islanders with a 2.7 total. Heading into Dallas, the Stars have a 3.3. Dallas going Rantanen, Johnston, Steele. Robertson, Hintz, Sagan. Jamie Benn is back on the line with Radek Faska and Captain Colin Blackwell, former Rangers legend. Islanders going Horvat, Palmieri, Heineman. Barzal, Drouin, Holmstrom, who's a game-time decision. And Lee, Pajot, Duclair. We were messaging me, you, and Jake, and I was like, I can't believe this is the slate for 100K up top. And Cliffy just goes, I'm at the point where I'm just contemplating just jamming the Islanders here.
I still am.
Yeah. Like Emil Heineman cannot be stopped. Like he is the greatest to ever do it. That line actually has been good offensively. I'll preface that offensively. Heineman, Horvat, Palmieri, they're up to 50 minutes now, 3.9 expected goals. They're very high event on both ends. Listen, like it's not a great matchup, but they're 15,500. They've been good. Like, I struggle to click in the Robert Thomas line for 15,000. I would have a little bit of an easier time clicking in Horvat, Palmieri, Heineman. I don't love it, but 1.5% projected ownership for a line that is produced offensively well, I think is okay. I don't particularly love the second line because if Holmstrom's out, I think it's Max Shabanov who's going to move up and That line composition isn't great as it is. I don't particularly love the third line either. I would prefer the third line to the second line at 10,100, but really it's the top line for me or bust on the Islanders side. And, I don't think I'm going to get there in single entry, but, there is merit to playing them just because of how high event they really are offensively. That being said, they're also very high event defensively, and they're going to see a lot of that Johnston-Rantanen line. The problem with that is they really haven't done shit at 5-on-5. Like, from a creation standpoint, not great. From a shot share percentage, not great. From an actual goal share, not great. The one thing is the Islanders don't have a very good penalty kill. They're not very good defensively. It is big save Dave in net. And that line's coming in at 8.7% at 17,600. But again, like with Dallas right now, and I know their minutes are coming down because they're getting healthier. But with these 5-on-5 lines, it's going to be a power play stack for me. I'll go Hintz, Robertson, Rantanen, Johnson, Rantanen, Robertson. I think the two guys that I really want to concentrate on are Robertson and Rantanen, and then you can go pick your center. I know the Islanders aren't a very good defensive team 5-on-5, but none of these Stars lines have been great at 5-on-5. So I want to take advantage of the special teams, and the Islanders penalty kill isn't great, and the Stars power play has been unbelievably good. So it would be a Stars power play stack. On the Islanders side would be the top line. I just don't know if I'm going to get there.
Yeah, this is another game where I think we're on different lines on the Islanders. In a nutshell, I much prefer the Horvat, Palmieri, Heineman line. Like, almost regardless of who's been the third winger, Horvat and Heineman have been very, very good offensively this season. Like, Barzal's been there. I think Lee had a couple games there. I think the only guy that didn't work out was Duclair. They kicked him down to the bottom six real quick. Palmieri's working there now. The problem is they're gonna see Heiskanen and Lindell, right? And Heiskanen and Lindell have been absolute monsters defensively this year. 1.9 expected goals against per 60 at 5-on-5, 1.6 actual goals against per 60 at 5-on-5. Like, they're giving up a half goal every 20 minutes of ice time.
Yeah, after that, there's nothing there, and there's injuries.
That's the thing, is that after that pair, Thomas Harley is out, Ilya Lyubushkin's out, Nils Lundqvist is still out. Half their blue line is missing. You have their second pair are two AHLers, and their third pair was good last year, hasn't been good so far this year. There's nothing there. So, not that I'm super in love with playing the Barzal, Drouin, and then Holmstrom or Shabanoff. We'll see who's in. The nice thing is Shabanoff is mid-price, so you can build your lineup with Holmstrom, and if you have to drop down, you can just drop down. That Islanders second line hasn't had a huge sample, about 55 minutes, but 54 shot attempts, 3 expected goals per 60. They've been getting a lot of ice time. Holmstrom around 18 minutes. Drouin and Barzal between 20 and 22 over the last 5 games. That is a ton of ice time for a line that's $12,700 facing a bunch of AHL defensemen. They are one of my favorite filler lines on the night. But like we said, Holmstrom may not play. If you do play Islanders 2, you'll have to watch for warm-up news because of, Holmstrom might be out, Shabanoff might be in, but you just build with Holmstrom, swap down to Shabanoff. He's like $800 cheaper or something. Not a huge deal. So because they're not going to see much of Heiskanen and Lindell, I honestly don't mind Islanders 2 here tonight. They are the only line that I have interest in from the Islanders side. On the Dallas side, it's like, oh my God. This is a smash spot. As you mentioned, the Islanders certainly not great on the penalty kill. I was looking at why the Islanders penalty kill goals against has been better. It's because of the save percentage, like 915 save percentage over the last 5 weeks. It's one of those things that's unsustainable. Dave, whether it happens in one game or not, I guess we'll see. But the Islanders, over those same 5 weeks, sixth worst expected goals against rate at 5-on-5. Very bad penalty kill rate. They do take a fair share of penalties, 3.4 times shorthanded per game over the last 5 weeks, tied for the 5th most in the league in that span. If you take 4 or 5 penalties against this Dallas team and then are still bad defensively at 5-on-5, you're probably going to have a pretty long night. I think I agree with you with just a full-on power play stack. Just because the Islanders do take so many penalties, just because the Islanders or the Stars power plays has been so good, I do worry about ice time, like you said. It has been coming down since Hintz came back. I mean, the last couple of games is different. I think they've won those 2 games by a combined score of 12-1. So, there was no reason to play the guys 21, 22 minutes. But I think that the days, as long as these guys are healthy-ish, the forwards anyway, the days of Rantanen and those guys playing 23 or 24 minutes are done and dusted. So I do have some concerns about ice time here, but I am perfectly fine with just straight up going to the power play stack. There are, cheap lines to play elsewhere on the slate, cheap one-offs that you can play elsewhere on the slate. If I were to play any one of the lines, it would be Robertson, Hintz, and Seguin, just because they do have, reasonable offensive numbers, at least Robertson and Hintz do. Like I said, I do worry about ice time, but this is a great spot both at 5-on-5 and on the power play for the Stars. And because it is such a good power play spot, I would just straight up power play stack and be on my way.
Yeah, I agree there. Yeah, if you're going to get Barzal for 20 minutes a night, that's definitely fine. Stacking Islanders just feels fun. Speaking of fun, we just got an update from Jake because he loves us. Thank you, Jake. Our Columbus Blue Jackets with a 2.8 total heading into Winnipeg. The Jets have a 3.6. Winnipeg going Connor, Scheifele, Velarde, Perfidi, Nemestikov, Taze, Niederreiter, Iafallo, Lowry. Not sure why I went through that. Columbus played last night. They beat Montreal, who did not look great at all last night. They're probably going to run back Marchenko, Fantilli, Voronkov. I think they finished with Wood on the second line and Chinnikov.
Yeah, they said Wood is going to stay there.
Yeah, they hate Chinnikov. Hopefully they can trade him. So the second line, quote unquote, it's really the third line: Monahan, Johnson, Wood, Coyle, Sillinger, Olivier. So it's not Hellebuck in net. It is Eric Comrie. That is a step down, but it's not as big of a leap as you think it is. Eric Comrie has been one of the most reliable backups in the league. Columbus is back-to-back on the road. I still think Columbus is an interesting play here. I don't particularly love the top line at 12.9% projected ownership, but they are only 16K. They are fully correlated. Honestly, though, the Winnipeg power or penalty kill has been better than in previous seasons. So, I'm kind of mum on it. I don't mind it at 16K. Am I going to prioritize them? I don't think so. We've talked about what the Jets look like with with Morrissey on and off the ice. Dylan Sandberg definitely helps that. But Coyle, Sillinger, Olivier play a ton. They're only 9K. I don't think you need all 3 of them. And it will let you get in a Dallas power play stack or something expensive with Tampa Bay or, anything or doing Detroit power play stack. You know what I mean? I'm not saying go out and play them, but if you need a cheap 2-man, I think Coyle, Olivier, Sillinger, Coyle, something like that is completely fine. They've been good offensively. Their price hasn't moved. By minutes, they're the second line. So I think that's my favorite play on Columbus. Obviously, the Marchenko line is fine. They've been rolling. It's just not the best matchup facing the Morrissey pairing. On the Winnipeg side, it's top line or bust. This would be – it's either them or Detroit. Really, when you're spending up, you could play Utah, obviously, but this is a really good power play matchup. These guys are power play and empty net merchants. it's a decent 5-on-5 matchup if they were actually any good at 5-on-5, which they aren't. But it certainly helps to have a good 5-on-5 matchup at 20,800. They have the highest top two stack percentage of the night at 24.6%, 16.7% projected ownership. Like you said, though, if you add in Morrissey, they're more expensive than Detroit. I do like them more than Detroit, though. So, you can factor that in how you want. I don't think adding Morrissey is an absolute necessity either. So I think Winnipeg 1 for me is my favorite play in this game. I'm fine with Columbus 1, but I think as a filler, a two-man of Coyle Sillinger or Coyle Olivier makes some sense.
Yeah, I wish this game was like even a week ago when Dylan Sandberg was still hurt, because it does make a big difference. Like, in his first two games back, the second pair for Winnipeg has a 64% shot share. To put that into context, up until Sandberg came back, Neil Pionk was at 45%. It's like it legitimately gives them one of the best second pairs in the league compared to being well below average. So, like, that's the one thing that if Sandberg wasn't in the lineup, I would have quite a bit of interest in Columbus here. Just because, listen, it is road back-to-back, but it's Eric Comrie, not Hellebuck. Comrie is one of the better backups in the league, has been over the last couple of years. He's not Connor Hellebuck. And Columbus is a legitimately very good offensive team. Problem is with Sandberg back now, they all of a sudden they have two defense pairs that they can send out, to shut down the opposition of 5-on-5. Columbus isn't drawing a lot of power plays either, second fewest in the league over the last 5 weeks. So I kind of agree with you. I don't mind that third line, Coyle Sillinger or Olivier, do like a two-man of like Coyle Sillinger or Coyle Olivier or something like that. If you want, stick them in with expensive Detroit or expensive Utah or what have you. I have no real objection to playing Columbus 1. The problem is, there's a twofold problem. One, there are a few lines in that price range I'd rather get to. We'll get to them in a little bit later in the slate. The other is they're not drawing any power plays. I think they had 1 or 2 last night. Like I said, second lowest rate of power play opportunities.
They scored on both.
Thanks, man. Second fewest power play opportunities in the game. Now, Winnipeg is taking a lot of penalties, so maybe something will be a little bit different here. Like, Columbus 1 has been good. They're getting good minutes. I have no real objection to playing them, for any particular reason, other than I think there are, I would probably rather go play Dallas for an extra $1,000. We do have St. Louis, who's a little over $1,000 cheaper. We'll get to the late game with Vegas and the Rangers. I think just because Dallas is priced right there, I don't have a ton of interest in that Columbus top line, but I don't think there's any particular fault in playing them. Like, even if they're matched up against the Scheifele line, even with Josh Morrissey on the, playing so many minutes and all that, the Scheifele line at 5-on-5 over the last 10 games is at 3.1 expected goals against per 60. They've been bad defensively. So I don't have any objections to playing Columbus 1. I just think with Dallas right there in that price range, I would probably just defer to them instead. On the Winnipeg side, like Winnipeg 1's firmly in play. The only thing that's kind of holding me back is, Columbus doesn't get power plays. They also don't give up very many power plays. They're at 2.1 per game over the last 5 weeks. It's the lowest rate in the league. Like the Jets, like Montreal didn't get a single power play last night. It probably worked out to their favor. It's just the way it goes. So that kind of sucks, but I do think Winnipeg 1 is firmly in play here. Honestly, because the thing is like, if I play Winnipeg 1, I want to bring Morrissey along with them. At that point, I'd rather go play cheaper Detroit 1 plus ASP. That's my only issue here. I will shut out Winnipeg 2. Since Cole Perfetti came back, him and Jonathan Taves have actually been pretty good together, which surprised me a little bit. I think part of that is like it kind of coincided with Dylan Sandberg coming back. That certainly helps. But, 45 minutes together for that second line duo, 76 shot attempts, 2.9 expected goals per 60. Like, you get middle six matchups from Columbus. There's really not a whole lot there to kind of hold you back. Perfetti's on the top power play unit, so you get some top power play exposure. I don't mind a two-man of like Taves, Perfetti, or something like that. Winnipeg one is my favorite line in this game. I do have more interest in Winnipeg than Columbus. I do think there are probably like 4 playable lines in this game, though.
Yeah. Calgary Flames. 3 total heading into Chicago. The Blackhawks also have a 3 total. Sam Renzel back for Chicago tonight. He's back in the lineup. Tyler Bertuzzi did not participate in morning skate, so something must have happened in that morning skate the other day. Re-aggravated something. Neither here nor there. It is also not Spencer Knight in net. It is Arvid Soderblom for the Blackhawks. He's been fine-ish this season. Spencer Knight has been amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where Soderblom's actually like he's been like pretty good. It's just Spencer Knight's been maybe the best goalie in the NHL.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Hellebuck and Connery.
Yeah. Calgary going Huberdeau, Coronado, Frost, Kadri, Farabee, Sharon Govich, Coleman, Backlund, Zari. Chicago going Bedard, Burakovsky, Ryan Green, Nazar, Teravainen, Moore, Donato, Mikheyev, Doc. So when I first looked over this slate, I circled Spencer Knight with a giant bullet because Calgary just throws anything on net, right? So it is Soderblom now. And they did give Kadri another line mate besides Farabee in Yegar Sharangovich. I know the Flames don't really like him and this and that, but like this line's 13,200. The power play correlation isn't great, but they're coming in with lower ownership than the Coronado Frost Huberdeau line. Kadri and Farabee have good numbers together. I don't want to say it's my preferred line, but from a 5-on-5 spot, it is. The problem is this is a very good power play spot, and I want to get power play guys in as much as I can. So for that reason, I would go to Frost, Coronado, or Huberdeau, but I would just full send with Kadri and Weegar at that point. And it's just insane because it's the Flames on the road on an 8-game slate with 100K up for grabs, but that's really what I'm looking at because it's not to the degree of, I can't play Tampa 2 without Kucherov. But like if the Flames are going to do damage on the power play, like Kadri more than likely is going to be involved. So while I'm fine with the Kadri, Farabee, Sharangovich line from a makeup perspective at 13-2, I want to get as many power play guys as I can. So it would be some sort of power play stack. On the Chicago side, it's a similar dynamic because Calgary is a very good defensive team. Their penalty kill is kind of where you beat them. Dustin Wolf has been a lot better since an awful start to the season. What I would probably do is go Bedard, Burakovsky, and then leave off Green and add in either Nazar or Teravainen. There isn't a great 5-on-5 matchup. If they do see the Kadri, Farabee, Sharangovich line, that's probably their most beatable. But it's a decent power play. I honestly prefer the Flames side. Chicago side, it would be Bedard, Burakovsky, and add in a third power play guy.
I'm going to be honest. I see the Calgary Flames, the Huberdeau Coronado Frost line with ownership coming in 2x, their top 2 stack. I look at the Kadri line at ownership nearly 3x their top 2 stack, and I'm just going, like, that's a no for me, dog. I don't play chalk Flames. It's like I don't play chalk Flames. I don't play chalk Predators. Those are just things I don't do. These are bad offensive teams. I mean, just because Huberdeau, Coronado, and Frost are perfectly correlated, like I think it's fine. But they have a very bad power play. It's like it's a decent power play spot, but they have a very bad power play. So it's like, is it a decent power play spot for the Flames, or is it a decent penalty killing spot for the Chicago Blackhawks? It's kind of how I'm thinking about this. So like, if anything, it would be the Huberdeau line, but just as a general rule, if I see the Calgary Flames as, their ownership coming in 2 or 3x their top 2 stack, I basically just crossed them out. At least their forwards. I think my biggest interest in the game would be a one-off Kadri, just because he is shooting the puck quite a bit. He's getting quite a bit of ice time. He's still in the top power play, so if they somehow donk a goal, maybe he'll get involved. But as far as full-on stacking goes, I think it's a pass for me. The Chicago side is a completely different story. This is a very good power play matchup for Chicago. The Calgary Flames, they've generally been one of the more penalized teams in the league this year, around the top 10 for time shorthanded per game. The Chicago top power play unit, 123 shot attempts, 9.6 expected goals per 60. Those are both above average. The Chicago top line with Ryan Green there, 69 shot attempts, 3.4 expected goals per 60. Connor Bedard skating like 21 minutes. Even Burakovsky's getting around 18, sometimes 19 minutes a game. I prefer the Chicago side here. Like, I know they are more expensive, but they're coming in with, at least the top line's coming in with less ownership than their top 2 stack, which is, you can't say that about any of the Calgary lines. At $16K, they're very reasonably priced. They are one of the lines that I would rather play over Columbus one. Like, they've been really good at 5-on-5. This is a good power play matchup. They have a good power play. So, like, I think a lot of things are lining up to go with Chicago. What worries me is, like, Dustin Wolf. Like he said, after a rough first couple games of the season, he's been really good over, like, his last 12 starts or 13 starts or whatever. I really do like Chicago one. If you want to turn it into a power play stack, I think you can do that as well, because the power play stack is not that expensive. Nazar's under 6K, Teravainen's only 4K, Burakovsky's under 5K, Levshunov's under 4K. It's only Bedard that's really price prohibitive. So, like, you can full on stack the entire top unit for under 27,000. I like Chicago one best in this game. They're going to get plenty of top 6 matchups from the Flames. Those are their worst defensive lines. It's a very good power play matchup for them. If you want to just full on power play stack Chicago, I think you can do that as well.
This slapdick in the chat, Frostback, saying Hawks are almost Ducks. That's how he's rationalizing playing the Hawks here tonight. He's like that chick in high school who always wins the NCAA pool by picking colors. They like this team's colors the best, but whatever works for you, big guy.
Yeah, man. A wise man once said, process doesn't pay the bills, results do.
That guy definitely was not a Leafs fan. Utah Mammoth with a 3.2 total heading into San Jose. The Sharks have a 2.8. Utah lost last night to the Ducks. The running back Keller, Schmaltz, Cooley, Genther, Hayton, Carcone, Paterka, Krause, McBain. Sharks are going Celebrini, Smith, Kurashev, Eklund, Wenberg, Graf. Mercifully, at least, it's a baby step. They've put Orlov back on the top power play.
You know what's the funny thing about that? Their last 4 teams that they played were all in the bottom half of the league by their penalty kill numbers are all in the bottom half of the league, and now they get a Utah team that's top 10.
Yeah,
great stuff there.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Great. But they are leaving Kurashev on the top line, which is just unforgivable. At 15,200, 9.2% top 2, 15.5% projected ownership is just like, I can't do it with Kurashev. I think going like Celebrini, Smith, Orlov is fine, but like Cliffy just said, Utah it has a top 10 penalty kill. Now they are back-to-back on the road, and it was what's his face last night. But Vejmelka really hasn't been good.
Yeah, him and Vanacek have been pretty much the same goalie this season.
Yeah. So, like, how much better of a matchup is it? It's like, just because the slate's so bad, like, I am considering some form of Sharks power play stack. and it has to include Celebrini. But like anyone but Kurashev there, and I would consider San Jose one, but like I just can't full stack them with Kurashev there. It would be some sort of power play stack, but I don't think I'd prioritize that. Like I'd rather just go play the Blackhawks power play. I think, Celebrini's fine. Eklund one off is fine. Dmitry Orlov one off will get to defenseman is fine. You know what I mean? But full stacking a Philip Kurashev line on a 8-game slate at 15.5%, like the list is long of things I'd rather do. On the Utah side, the Utah top line here is the pivot off of Detroit and Winnipeg. They have a 10.5% top two. They're coming in at 1.6% projected ownership. The issue here is their price. They were at one point like 17K. They're up above 20K. This is a really, really good matchup though. So, if you really want to get spicy and you don't want to play the Jets and you don't want to play the Wings, but you still want to spend up and have some fun, it would be that Utah line. These middle six lines are really bothering me. Like Cliffy said yesterday, they're kind of eating each other's minutes, and that's not something I'm interested in. So it would be Utah one or bust. You want to add in Genther to make it a power play stack. You're looking at really expensive power play stack, and that's why Cliffy likes Detroit better because it's cheaper. I tend to agree with that here. I still think of the expensive stuff, without the D-men, I like the Jets the best, but I think Utah 1 here is a nice pivot off them, so it would be Utah 1 and some sort of Sharks power play stack.
I'm wondering if Utah doesn't change their lines again.
They might. Yeah.
Like we said yesterday, they changed up their lines because they had lost, I think it was like 4 of their previous 5 games or something like that. Then they go out and they give up the game time goal with 5 seconds left and then lose in overtime. And I only caught like the first half of that game. Like Peterka didn't really look like he was fitting in well with Lawson Krause and Jack McBain, which
here's a shocker.
I don't know what they expected, but I mean, Dylan Genther, I think he only played 15:40 last night, and that was an overtime game. He's only played 16 and a half minutes a game in November. Now I think he still had a goal and a shot bonus. Like that's what Dylan Genther does. But just because I'm kind of nervous about them switching around the depth lines for Utah, like I guess it would be the top line, because even if they take somebody off that top line, like they'll still all be on the power play together. You're right that like they are the pivot away from Detroit and Winnipeg. The thing is like even Detroit's coming in with single digit ownership, like 8.5%. Like
so how much pivoting are you really doing?
Yeah, exactly. Like if Detroit's at 8%, Utah's at 2%. Like, I mean, obviously that is a difference, but it's not like this isn't the NFL where you're playing with 500,000 people in a contest or something like that, right? Like if you can get an 8% line in a 1,000-man contest, like perfectly fine. And then of course, if you add in Sergachev, that just makes it so much more expensive. And the Utah top line has been pretty good. They're not getting massive minutes. They're getting 19 to 20 minutes, which is fine. 3.4 expected goals per 60 at 5-on-5, which is pretty good. I don't have an issue with playing them. It's just for me, I think I would rather play Detroit here tonight. So like maybe some one-offs from the depth, but I just don't think Utah's a team that I'm going to be getting to. And as I say those words, I just picture myself sitting on the couch at 1 a.m. and I'm watching Clayton Keller finish off a hat trick and there's still 30 minutes left in the game or something like that. Yeah. Anyways, so I guess by default it would be the San Jose side. The thing is like Utah is a very good defensive team. So even if their goalies haven't been great, they don't give up a ton of goals. They also don't take very many penalties. Utah's taking the 3rd fewest per game in the league over the last 5 weeks. And their penalty kill has generally been above average on top of that. So one of the least penalized teams with a good penalty kill, even with Orlov there, who I do think will help the San Jose power play. Like it's still not a very good power play spot. I'm going to be honest, from the San Jose side, I think my favorite things might be some one-offs. I think a Tyler Toffoli one-off is perfectly fine. I think a William Eklund one-off actually makes some sense here. if only because he's been shooting a lot more than he ever really has. 5,200, I think he's priced perfectly fine. He's still going to get 19 to 20 minutes a night. So I like an Eklund one-off, a Toffoli one-off. Of course, a Celebrini one-off is always perfectly fine. I think that's my favorite thing in this game is just some one-offs of the top guys from the Sharks rather than full stacking anything.
You don't want to play Phil Kershev? Moving on. New York Rangers with a 2.8 total. Heading into Sin City, the Golden Knights have a 3.1 total. Vegas going Eichel, Barbashev, Braden Bowman, Marner, Dorofeyev, Hurdle. Rangers going Zibanejad, Miller, Cooley, Panarin, Trocheck, Lafreniere. So Borgen is practicing with them right now. But Scott Morrow is skating with Matt Robertson, and Scott Morrow is power play quarterbacking the second pair or the second power play unit, and Borgen is skating with Urho Vakanainen, which makes me believe that Borgen is still out here tonight, and that's important because he has been excellent defensively this season. So on the Vegas side, once you get past that Fox-Gavrikov pairing, now you're looking at Susie Schneider and Robertson Morrow, and that is not great. With Susie there, I don't want to say it's as extreme as when Sandberg was out, but he has had an excellent season. So for that reason, I do really like Marner, Dorofeyev, Hurdle. They are fully correlated. They're going to miss the Fox pairing for the most part. 14.9% top two stack, 11.5% projected ownership. They are fully correlated. I haven't seen a goalie confirm yet. I would imagine it's Igor. So that does put a damper on it. But this matchup with Borgen out is a lot better than with Borgen in. So that would be the line for me on Vegas. On the Rangers side, both of these top two lines are under 17K with almost no ownership. And, Vegas still has goalie problems. Trocheck, Lafreniere, Panarin, 16,900, 1.9% top two stack. Zibanejad, Miller, Cooley, fully correlated at 16,100, 3.1% projected ownership. The power play has been better with Cooley. I'm not running out to play the Rangers here because Vegas is still a very, very good team. But at those prices and those ownership and the pedigree of Lafreniere, Trocheck, Panarin, and the fully correlated Zibanejad, Miller, Cooley, I think both those Rangers lines are playable. Will I get there? Remains to be seen. I still think my favorite line in this game is Marner, Dorofeyev, Hurdle. I think it becomes a lot better if Quick's in net. I still think it's Igor, so I probably won't get there in single entry, but there's definitely merit to playing them.
Yeah, I think we mentioned it on a show last week, but if you look at Eichel's defensive numbers with Marner on his line, they were really bad. If you look at him with Stone, they were great. If you look at him without either of those guys, they're actually pretty good. And I was, looking at the defense pairs for Vegas, like Theodore McNabb, 2.1 expected goals against. The second pair of Hanif and Whitecloud, 1.9 expected goals against. They've been really, really good defensively. Vegas doesn't take a ton of penalties. They're better than league average in that regard. Rangers don't draw a lot of power plays. So even the Rangers power plays legitimately been a lot better with Will Cooley. They might only get a couple chances here tonight, maybe. This isn't a game where I'm power play stacking the Rangers or you have to play the Millers, Zibanejad, Cooley line because of the correlation. I do think you can go to Panarin, Trocheck, Laf. In fact, that line, I was looking at this morning. I had to double check on two different sites to make sure something wasn't wrong. Trocheck, Panarin, Lafreniere, believe it or not, is the most common line combination the Rangers have had this season, and Trocheck has played 6 games. I swear to God, that line's played 70 minutes. It's the most of any 3-man forward combination for the Rangers, and Trocheck has played 6 games. Anyways, they've been really, really good offensively at 5-on-5. It's just a really tough matchup.
Yeah.
if I was 20 maxing tonight, I would probably have that Trocheck line in one of my lineups. Like I wouldn't go cheap. Yeah, I wouldn't go all in on them, but under 17K, getting good ice time, they're good enough that they can beat anybody. It's just this is one of the tougher spots where they would have to do it. Like I said, 20 max, I would probably have one of them. 150 max, maybe I have 4 or 5 or something like that. I wouldn't go any crazy. It would be the line I would play. It's the only thing I like on the Rangers side. I agree with you with Vegas too. That line has just been tremendous. 82 shot attempts, 3.7 expected goals per 60 at 5-on-5. Small sample, but adding Braden Bowman instead of Shea Theodore in the power play has certainly helped very recently. Whether that persists, I guess we're going to find out coming up. Vegas does draw a reasonable, fairly sizable amount of power plays, I should say. 3.5 per game, 5th most in the league over the last 5 weeks. So I do like Vegas too here tonight. This isn't a case where I feel like I have to jam in Eichel because it's not like it's a great 5-on-5 matchup for Vegas. It's not. If it was a good 5-on-5 matchup, I'd be like, do I really want to leave Eichel off? But where he might get shut down at 5-on-5, like maybe he gets there on the power play, it could happen. But that Vegas second line's been so good at 5-on-5. I have no issue playing them whatsoever. So for me, this is a game about the second lines, whether it's the Hurdle line, whether it's the Trocheck line. That's where my interest is here.
Yes, we are on board there. $5 super chat from Tom Chambers. Thank you very much for the super chat. He said, great show again, guys. Couple questions to make it a bit longer. Overall, who are your top 2 mid-price lines and your top full power play stack? For me, power play stack, it would probably be the Jets. Price agnostic, it's the Jets. You throw price into the mix, I think it would be Detroit. Or Dallas, and in terms of lines between 15 and 18K, funny enough, there's a bunch. It's just there aren't anything super great. I think by process of elimination, it would be Columbus 1 for me and Chicago 1. The lines that I really start liking are just above the 18K. I will say if it is Hischer, Bratt, and Grietzuk and not Timo Meier, that line would be in between that price range, and that would be thrusted up into the mix there. But as it stands, it would be Columbus and Chicago.
Yeah, if you're not worried about ownership, I agree with you on Columbus for sure. Marchenko, Fantilli, Voronkov at 16K. I just think the ownership is a little bit high and that the matchup isn't that great. But yes, it is Columbus 1. They've been great at 5-on-5 and are perfectly correlated. The other one for me would be Dallas, Rantanen and Johnson Steele under 18K. It's just such a good matchup for them at home. You get 2 out of the 3 in a great power play matchup. So it would be Dallas 1 and Columbus 1 for me. In that 15 to 18K range. Top full power play stack. It's probably Dallas. They're just really expensive. That's kind of the problem. I think, quote unquote, Dallas is in the best power play spot here tonight when you look at how good the power play is and how bad the opposing penalty kill is. I think St. Louis overall is in the best power play spot. If you look at the opposition, the problem is that it's the St. Louis Blues. So take that for what it's worth. The Leafs penalty kill is atrocious, but so is the St. Louis power play. It's just that Dallas's power play is so good and the Islanders penalty kill is so bad.
Yep. Let's move on to thank you for the super chat again, Tom, but let's move on to defensemen. Top of the board here, 6K and up. It's just 3 hombres, Zach Werenski, Josh Morrissey, Mikhail Sergachev. I think they're all fine. I think they're in order. Werenski, Morrissey, Sergachev. I'm of the belief that you don't need Morrissey in a Winnipeg power play stack. I still would advise adding him in. Sergachev, listen, he plays heavy minutes. Sometimes he doesn't have the best games. He's fine. Obviously, Werenski's number 1 by a mile. The dude played 29-41 yesterday, and he didn't even break a sweat. So they're in order for me. Werenski 1, Morrissey 2, Sergachev 3. if you don't want to spend up there are a gaggle of options in the mid-range here today.
Yeah, I agree with you on that order. Werenski, Morrissey, Sergachev. If you look at the projections on Stochastic here tonight, that's what they are. And it's the same by point per dollar as well. So it's not just overall projection. If you look at the fantasy points per $1,000, it's Werenski 1, Morrissey 2, Sergachev 3. Morrissey's at like 2 blocks per game and over 8 points per game this season. And Columbus is a pretty good matchup for him at home. So something just to keep in mind there. Yeah, there is a lot in the mid-price range to like. Heiskanen, obviously, in that great power play matchup, especially with all the defensemen out, like him and Lindell might have to play even more minutes than they usually do. Matthew Schaefer, I think, on the other side is perfectly fine. Like, the guy's still getting good minutes. And like I said, Dallas is pretty banged up on the blue line right now. And the Islanders are an underratedly good offensive team, and Schaefer's certainly not shy to shoot the puck. Mackenzie Weegar's okay, just because he has been shooting the puck more for Calgary. The problem is Rasmus Anderson is $600 cheaper with power play time. So, like, I'd probably just rather play Anderson. Colton Parayko against the Leafs. I mean, listen, Colton Parayko, Justin Falk, Philip Broberg, like they're all Cam Fowler, they're all fine against the Leafs. Like, let's be honest here. For cheaper defensemen, there are a lot of defensemen that are likely running their top power play units that are under 4K here tonight. Simon Nemec, Cam Fowler, Dmitry Orlov, Levshunov, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Axel Sandin-Pellikka. Those guys, I'm sure there are probably more. Those guys are all running the top power play, all under 4K here tonight. I don't mind Esa Lindell either, just because he's under 4K. And like I said, him and Heiskanen might have to play a bunch of minutes. Liam Bichelle, same thing, same reason from Dallas. He's probably their number 3 defenseman at this point. So that means 20 to 21 minutes, and he's under 3K. Mario Ferraro under 3K is fine. So, yeah, that's about where I'm at for defensemen.
Yeah, let's talk about goalies. This is not a good goalie slate for the expensive guys. Like, listen, like I'm not a huge spend up in net type of guy. The 8K and up range is just a mess here tonight. You have Comrie, Ottinger, the Utah starter, Vasilevsky, Schmid, and Woll. I think Ottinger would where I would be. The 2 other guys I'd take a shot at are Vasilevsky and Joseph Woll, because if the Leafs win, he's going to have a good game. But again, like, I'm not super thrilled about spending up here. The Detroit starter, if it's Talbot, I prefer a little bit more than Gibson, but I think they're fine. In the mid-range, that's kind of the mid-range. I guess it would be Dustin Wolf. But really, I have more interest with the cheap guys, like Joey Decord, 7,300 makes a lot of sense. Igor Shesterkin, 7,300 makes some sense. Even Askarov at 7,100 makes some sense. And then, like, I don't think I'd go below Askarov. You have Rittich and Merzlikins. Like, I don't particularly love either. I'd probably go to Merzlikins just because he's under 7K and, you know, he may see more volume. Dallas is just kind of one of those teams where, like, you can look up and they have 4 goals on 17 shots and you're like, well, see you later. So, like, I wouldn't go below Askarov, but if I had to, it'd be Merzlikins.
Yeah. Andre Vasilevsky's at the top of the board for expensive goalies. I don't think that's any real surprise at home to New Jersey. Jake Ottinger's right after him. Like, normally I wouldn't want to play Ottinger, but with so many guys out, like, he might actually have to see some volume here tonight. So he's a guy to keep in mind. You know, so Vasilevsky, Ottinger. I think the guy that, honestly, it's Arvid Soderblom that really sticks out to me. Like, I know he's not Spencer Knight. I really do wish Spencer Knight was starting this game. By the same token, the Flames are 8th in the league in shots per minute this year and last in the league by goals per minute. So that seems like a pretty good fantasy combination to me. It was something similar last year as well. Like, I honestly don't mind Soderblom at 7,800. Igor, he just got confirmed, by the way. So Igor 7,300, obviously for cheap. Dustin Wolf at 7,600. I think he's playable. I do have some concerns about volume. Like, Calgary's low-key not a bad defensive team at 5-on-5. It's just on the penalty kill where they really struggle. And Askarov at home for 7,100. Assuming he gets to start here, he got confirmed while we were on the air. So Askarov, at 7,100 is probably the cheap goalie. I don't mind him against Utah, honestly. Utah road back-to-back. If you need a super cheap goalie, I think that's where I go.
Yep. What do you think of Matejchuk from Columbus? I think he's fine. He plays a ton of minutes, so we can't just name everybody, but Danton Matejchuk is in play. Yeah.
Yeah, 3,000, it's perfectly fine. He gets good minutes. I wrote about him today, actually, on my newsletter. He's having a really good sophomore season. I don't mind him at all. It's just a kind of a tough matchup against Winnipeg. I mean, not a brutal matchup, just kind of a tough matchup against Winnipeg.
Yeah, and he's having an unbelievable season, but it isn't translating to DFS, right? He's more of a Walmart Miro Heiskanen, where he's really, really good, just doesn't have the numbers to back it up for DFS. We should be back tomorrow, Wednesday, for a 4-gamer. Good luck, everybody, tonight. Who you liking for your hat trick pick?
Well, we just talked about the game here right at the end. I like this player. I hope he has a big season. Just came back from injury. I'm going with Cole Perfetti.
There we go. We ragged on Blues fans enough to see a couple cry emojis in the chat today. I am going Jordan Kyrou.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, look who they're up against.
Yeah. Anytime we can bag on the Leafs, we absolutely will do it. Good luck, everybody, tonight. If you're in the 222, good luck. Hopefully someone we know, if it's not us, wins the 100K. Good luck, everybody, tonight. See you tomorrow.
Good luck tonight, everyone.